This video now is me addressing my complete cutting plan, which I use when I'm coming down from this sort of physique on screen down to a more leaner physique like this. So the first most crucial thing you gotta do when you're cutting is determine what your deficit is gonna be. And to do that, you find out what your daily calories are to maintain the same weight, track over like 5 to 7 days, and you just kind of average that out. And once you determined your daily amount of calories you need to consume, all you have to do is think about your deficit. And your deficit is based off how aggressive you wanna have your cut and how much time you have available for your cut. One thing to bear in mind is the more gradual your cut is, the more chance you are of retaining more of the muscle you've built and you spent all that time making. If you do like a very aggressive cut and you lose weight way too fast, chances are you're gonna be losing a hell of a lot more muscle than you was if you did the other way around. So basically, slow and steady wins the fucking race. If you go way too hard from day one and just do a super aggressive cut, especially if it's a long cut as well, you may end up losing way too much muscle mass and you start having the appearance of the skinny fat sort of look because your body composition just doesn't look correct. For this reason, this is why it's always smart that if you know you're gonna be cutting for something, try plan ahead and more or less set your weeks out. The more structured you make your cutting plan, the more benefit you're probably gonna have because you're gonna have more time to cut down, so you can do it more gradual. For example, when I was cutting from the physique you see on screen, my maintenance calories was around 2,600 to 2,500 calories. So when I started cutting, I didn't jump straight down to a 500 calorie deficit. I took it down by around 50 to 150 calories. I more or less took it very gradual because I had no crazy time scale to adhere to. I more or less decided that I wanted to do a nice gradual cut, and my aim was to lose half a pound to a pound per week. Once you have your calories sorted, the next thing you need to sort out is your macros. And for me, the macros I tried to achieve was 200 grams of protein, 220 grams of carbs, and 50 grams of fat. I didn't start off doing those macros straight away, but that was my goal. And as you may have noticed, that works out to 370 calorie deficit if I'm counting 2,500 as my starting point. Okay, for those of you out there that want to apply these macros to you, the rough kind of macro ratio I kind of followed was 45% of it was carbs, 35% of it was protein, and 25% of it was fats. This brings us on to a really crucial step, which is measuring your progress, because trust me, a lot of people underestimate. Measuring your progress is major key, because you shouldn't just use the scales, which a lot of people do. The scale should only be a guide. Me, when I'm cutting and when I do cut, I always show you guys my weight, and I always do weigh myself every single week without fail, but that's just a rough guide. The main thing I do is I take progress pictures. Every 1 to 2 weeks, I'll more or less take a snap of myself, whether it be a video or a picture. Me personally, I prefer video because you can see better definition. People get hung up too much on the scale and you shouldn't. At the end of the day, you want to look better, not just weigh less, so don't just use the scales. Next up, obviously, which is a crucial part as well, the training split where you're going to be following push-pull legs, purely because I just like the frequency at which I'm working my body parts. My logic behind it is just the fact that I feel like when I'm doing so much frequency on my body, when I'm cutting, I feel like I'm more likely to retain more of the muscle mass, because at the end of the day, we are cutting, which means we are going to lose a little bit of mass. So I try and work out intensely and as frequently as I can without overexerting myself to try and retain as much muscle as I can. I normally work out 5 to 6 days a week. But really, when it comes down to a bodybuilding split, you just gotta find out what's right for you. At the end of the day, everybody's different, everyone has different preferences. Just find one that fits into your daily lifestyle as well. For example, you may hear about great things about 4-day split, but if you can only work out 2-3 days a week, that's not gonna fit for you. It's better for you to do something more like a upper body, lower body type thing. The key thing is basically make sure you're getting a volume in, your training intensity is fairly decent, and you're having a good time when you're in there. Because at the end of the day, if you're not enjoying your workout, you're not gonna carry on with it, you're probably gonna just stop eventually. So enjoy your workout. This brings us on to, sorry guys, I'm trying to make this video entertaining as well as informative. But anyway, the next thing I want to talk about is cardio. In the early stages of my cutting, I always do cardio very lightly, just trying to get my body used to doing kind of cardiovascular exercises again. Because a lot of people just literally ignore cardio fully when they're bulking. I was one of those people, and I ain't gonna lie, I would not advise doing it because I did feel like I was very sluggish. But anyway, back onto the cutting topic. When it came to cardio, I initially started the first like month or two, just like 5 to 10 minutes of cardio, lightly on the stepper or on the treadmill. But when you start taking cardio a bit more seriously, when you want to properly measure and track it, I personally would measure it in calories, not minutes. A good example is me and my boy often go to the gym. We both do 10 minutes of cardio here and there. I'll probably be able to burn like a good 130 calories. He may only burn 80 because he may not be doing the same pace I am. So I would always measure in calories. And when I came near to the end of my cut, I do around 30 to 40 minutes on the stepper, which works out to roughly around 380 to 420 calories. So just keep that in mind. And for the most part, I usually always do LISS, so low intensity state cardio, purely because I just like getting on the machine and kind of zoning out. I normally bring either TV shows or watch YouTube on my phone and literally just stay there for 30 to 40 minutes and breeze through it, because I'm just more or less not focused on the calories or how much I'm doing. I'm just zoning into my phone, watching the TV show. That's a tip by TJ. If you want to do long bits of cardio, make sure you have like some sort of video or something to watch that more or less helps you get through it. Put on some video and I guarantee you'll be more captivated and you won't even realize the time go by. When it comes to the diet, I cook all my own foods, so I would say if you don't know how to cook, learn how to cook. It's a major benefit to your life, trust me. You need to learn how to cook so you can see what's going into your foods and learn portion sizes for the most. So basically I cooked all my meals and I made sure to try and fit in foods that I still enjoyed. Like I do follow that kind of if it fits your macros principle, but I don't neglect my micros. I try and fit in as much veg as I can. I'm not a massive veg enthusiast, so I'm not going to preach and sit here act like I am. I'm not, but I try and fit in as much veg as I can possibly eat into my meals. One, it kind of adds a lot more volume to your portions, which will help fill you up more. So adding like veg and fruit into your diet, for example, just eating an apple instead of like a chocolate bar will probably fill you up for like twice as long as you just eating a chocolate bar, and it'll be half the calories as well. So that's just things you need to consider. Like make good replacements, I would say, if you're cutting, because things like this can really be a lifesaver because they help fill you up longer and they taste fairly good as well if you just give them a chance. So don't hide from veg, don't hide from your fruits. Some of you are probably going to be wondering about cheat days. To be honest, I never had any scheduled cheat days at all in when I was cutting. I just take up when I feel like I've deserved one, which usually worked out to like every 2 or 3 weeks. And it wouldn't be a cheat day, it would be a cheat meal. You could do even more frequent than that if you really wanted to. It was just the fact that because I cook my meals and they are quite tasty and I enjoy them, I didn't feel the need that I craved a cheat meal or a cheat day. I could just more or less sustain that kind of lifestyle, which is why I think you should learn how to cook, because once you learn how to make tasty meals that's macro friendly, you won't even think about having cheat days. When it comes to cutting, you may hear people talk about refeed days and things like that. Those of you who don't know what refeed is, it more or less is a day where you need to kind of boost your carbs way up, and it more or less is meant to help give your metabolism a boost. So normally you kind of double your carbs and kind of lower your fats and your proteins, but the whole aim of them more or less is after like long periods of cutting, fat loss is kind of slowing down and you're feeling a lot more tired. So sometimes a refeed day can really help and make you feel a lot better and more or less help continue the kind of fat loss. The frequency depends on more or less your body fat and where you are in your cut. But while I was cutting last time, as I said, I didn't feel the need to have a refeed day. But if I did have one, the macros would have been the following. Okay, moving on to the supplements I used throughout my cutting time. The only thing I really used was whey protein. I think I have some on the table. Yeah, you see there? I did try and take creatine for a while, but I kind of stopped. But for the most part, consistently, it was just whey protein. I took more or less 1 to 2 scoops a day, depending on if I was training or not, or if I could reach my protein goals just by eating foods. For example, days when I had foods like tilapia, fish, things like that, because I can eat a lot more of that than I can with like other meats like chicken and beef, I was able to hit my protein goals a lot easier because it was just a lot easier to eat and it didn't fill me up as much. And the final thing I feel like a lot of you really need is motivation. This is the last thing I'm going to talk about really. And when it comes to motivation, the best thing I can say to you guys is remember why you started. What was the main reason you started cutting or going to the gym, and just more or less focus on that. And I definitely advise doing the progress pictures every 2 weeks. If you're anything like me, that should motivate you to keep carrying on, because more or less when I see progress and I see differences and I see real things changing, it really does help me, gives me a kick up the ass and keeps me in the gym and keeps me doing what I'm doing. Once you feel like you're progressing in life or progressing whatever you're trying to do, you definitely feel motivated to carry on with it. By the way, if you want to see the vlogs that support everything I've said in this video, on my YouTube channel there's a playlist called Cutting Season, and I'm more or less going into depth on some of these topics a lot further in throughout the whole weeks, and I more or less show you progress, and I show you my weigh-ins every week as well as like a little physique update. So if you want to see that, be sure to check out that Cutting Series. And if I achieve my goal of making this video informative and entertaining, please leave a thumbs up, I'd greatly appreciate it. Share it with a friend as well that may need this information. So thanks for watching this video, stay getting gains.